All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer, Angelus, son of Abaddon. And today, I'd like to discuss continued dedication to study. And what's ironic about this is that a lot of people want to know about what they're practicing. But then you have others that simply want others to do the work for them. Not everybody is going to be welcoming to what you do. I know my son's mom hates what I do as a career dark sorcerer. She wishes I was more like her. But unfortunately, that's not in my DNA, apparently. But my point is this. When you get into any given field of study, practice even, you have to be completely dedicated to the point of obsession. Nothing comes easy and nothing will be given to you. You have to earn the right to hold the titles that you do. It's taken me 20 years to be an ordained priest, minister, clergy. I was a magi for many, many years before Facebook decided to switch it up and put me as the Black Pope of my own order, which was kind of amusing. But it's an honor. They felt that I was, worthy enough to have that title of Black Pope of the Order of the Black Thorn. But like I said, when I first came on to YouTube about 10 years ago, I didn't have a clue how to do a live video. Hell, most of what I know today about technology, I didn't have a fucking clue back then. Hey, Shelly333, welcome to the channel. So yeah, back then, I didn't have a clue about technology. I barely even knew how to operate my own cell phone. As my son's mother constantly is reminding me, she doesn't ask me to do anything technology-wise because of how lacking my knowledge is of technology. And it sucks because I'll never be able to catch up or understand all these latest gizmos that people use in their videos. It took me 30 minutes just this morning to get my laptop up and running so I could do this video. That should tell you something. I had to go to Google just to figure it out. Now, if I hadn't figured it out, I would have had to wait until my son's mother got home later today. But by the time she gets home, I'll be at work. You see, this is dedication, the willingness to do what is necessary, not only for what you do as an individual, but as a public figure. It's how you represent yourself, how you are seen, how you are viewed, about the content that you put forth. Because you are inevitably held accountable for your own actions. So here it is. 30 years of practice, dedication, commitment even to the arts and practices of many religions, many philosophies that I've been indoctrinated into, initiated into, and practiced for over 30 years. Sometimes I can't believe it's been that long. 30 years. I mean, that's a long time. That's 3 decades of complete study, practice, faith, even. Going from one side of the country to the other, just off faith, off a whim. Learning from shamans, medicine men, priests and priestesses, the whole works, just to gain the knowledge. You see, a lot of people today, they don't have the galls to just pack up and go to further their education in this sense. It's either they lack the necessary funds or they're afraid of being homeless. I can tell you I've gotten to the point where I've slept in my own car. I didn't have the funds to stay in a motel as I went from one side of this country to the other, so I slept in my car. Hell, I've lived off the streets in 2 different cities to further my career as a magician, a sorcerer. You see, this is commitment, dedication. When an elder puts a task in front of you, puts a trial in front of you, it is up to you to see it through. Step up to the plate or don't. That's on you. But to step up brings much more beneficial means to you. A lot of you know that over the last year and a half, I have been walking the path of the necromancer through the Mazajura Cabal system. I have been doing a lot of research, a lot of studying, and a lot of practicing. I have a grimoire that's mostly full, a 3-ring binder packed full of notes and typed research papers that I've done, 2 of which are my own personal essays that I've done on necromancy and chiromancy. My studies into the beings of the Mazajura Cabal has led me throughout the old world, from Iceland, or from Irish to Scottish to Proto-Germanic to Slavic, Baltic, the old world of the European continents, countries. And now another test has been put in front of me, another task on top of what I've been doing. Looking at Nikia, necromancy, Greek. Looking at nigromancy, the Latin variation of necromancy, which is the Roman, but more so to go down into Egyptian necromancy, specifically around the 1st and 2nd dynasty. Going into Canaanite traditions, Chaldean traditions, When you get into these regions and you get into necromancy or any form of tradition, doesn't matter if it's Voodoo, Santeria, Pero Mayambi, Quimbanda, all of these go all the way back into African, traditions. They're not just African Caribbean as they're known today, but they've gone all the way back into the Congo regions of Africa, Ethiopian, Malawi. And these are long held views. The Agi is what they refer to as sorcerers there. Witches, warlocks, practitioners of the arts. And that's something that's very, very interesting because when you get into the Sumerian or the Akkadian, even Babylonian regions of the world, you see the mage, the magi, okay? You see the Welsh wizard, the European witch, the, how should I say this, the Scottish hexa, okay? The Romanian strega, Italian witch, okay? These are old world. It goes all the way back to around 500 to 600 BE, BC, okay? Era, even BCE. These are things that are important to know throughout your practices. But when you get into the deities themselves and you start learning, say for an example, let's go with the Tower of Atropi for an example. The chosen, one of the two chosen towers that I'm studying. Right now, my focus is solely on necromancy. So the Tower of Atropi is something that is spectacular to me. I've always been associated with I shouldn't say associated, but more fascinated with the dead, with demons in the underworld. The mythos of Astarte and Anna, Areshkigal, okay, and the descent into the underworld that they did, even Dante's Inferno, okay. But if you go back even further than these myths, these legends, you see a picture of the dark god, Chernobog, in Slavic, Russian literature. The Dralith in both Scottish and Germanic, European even, how they're viewed with the Hobbit, the little people. But you see how they're broken down into three classifications. And then you go further and you see how you have the light versus the dark. The dark, obviously, associated with death, destruction, decay, disease, anything of that fashion, even the demonic. You bring it down into the Greek, and you got Coco Damon, the baneful to the human. You get into the gods like Anubis, and you see how he's known as the embalmer, the ruler of cemeteries, protector of the grave, the jackal, the dog-headed deity, whose job was to judge the dead, to weigh their iniquity, their guilt, much in the same way as Osiris. Or you can go into Greek, you got Hermes, the messenger, Hades, the god of the underworld, Hades himself, Lord of the dead. You have Ereshkigal, Persephone, and Anna, who is said to be the human woman that lives half the year with him in the underworld, and that the other half were the humans. It was the pact that she had made with him as his wife. But then what about Hecate? Goddess of witchcraft, ghosts, the underworld, justice, and necromancy. She's a Greek goddess, rules in Olympus with Zeus, Ares, Aphrodite, Circe, Hades. But what's interesting about this is that her mythos goes back even further. For an example, did you know that she stayed neutral during the War of the Gods? The war between the Olympians and the Titans? Did you know that she was actually the daughter of a Titan? Ironic, isn't it? How much people really don't know about the gods and goddesses of death. Like, I knew that Artemis had a cult following. I knew that there had been human sacrifices done in the name of gods. I mean, you look at the Aztecs, you look at the virgin sacrifices. Okay, hey Areta, and you go in even further, and you got the cult of Isis. You know, but I had no idea until somebody brought it up that even Anubis himself had an occult following. You see, a cult that followed the cult of Anubis, which was basically a priesthood. I didn't know that. And that was kind of cool to find that out. So I delved into it. And when I delved into it, and you started reading and you started taking notes and you're starting to see that picture from how we see them today through pagan and Wiccan practices. Sometimes in that corrupted mannerism, like that of, say, those who have been watered down by the JCI. And you have to take it back into the original sources. In Voodoo, for an example, or the African Caribbean traditions, they're intermingled with many religions, including the JCI, the Catholics, Catholicism, even in their ways. So you have to take it back even further. It doesn't mean that they're any less powerful or potent. It just means you got to take it back to the beginning. And what's ironic is the first voodoo practitioners were actually the Yoruba people who started practicing along the Nile River. Palo Mayombe, Quimbanda, and Umbanda were practices that were very brutal. Umbanda and Quimbanda are two of the most bloodiest practices in religious history outside of the JCI. But over time, especially the last 20 years, they've really been watered down. But then again, they only show the public what they want, the good side, so they'd be accepted. But that's really what it's about these days. It's about being a part of something. It's about being accepted by your peers, doing something to fit in, to have a place to belong. No one's really interested in doing the work. And those who do are few and far beyond, because most people like to simply follow. They like to follow those who are actually doing stuff. It means less work for them. It means less that they have to do. But don't get me wrong, there are those as well that do follow because they like what you do. The knowledge that you put out, the years of dedication that you've done, the image that you've set up for yourself. You see, this comes with commitment and dedication to your practices and your studies. Because when you know what you're talking about, when you can speak and pull multiple sources together to paint that picture for your client or your apprentice, even if you're doing a lecture for the public at a college or perhaps a group of individuals who simply want to know about demonolatry or that of Satanism, perhaps even black magic in general. You know, it's not that hard because you've committed yourself to this path of sorcery. You've committed yourself to the dedication of of your education, your personal evolution. You've taken that step back from the herd conformity. You're not going with the herd. You're not doing what everybody else is doing. And it kind of gets people's attention. Like, wait, this guy's not going like everybody else. What's he doing? Or maybe even her. What's she doing? You see, you take Sorceress Cagliostro, the necromancer. She's got 35 years. 35 years, if not more, in blood sorcery, necromancy, the medical field. The medical field, where she literally is a practitioner of necromantic rites, the path working, the root working of necromancy and blood sorcery. 30 plus years just in that alone. That's dedication. She has numerous books out, but she's not out there putting them in your face, beating her chest. No. Alistair Notch, 30 plus years in theistic Satanism, considered to be the leading authority on spiritual and theistic Satanism, has written at least 10 books, if not 11. 11th, the last book that I heard that he wrote before his retirement was a journal. That's dedication. All his experiences dealing with demons, devil worship, satanic practices and rites to show you how to do it. This is commitment and dedication. You know, the ONA, for an example, the Order of the Nine Angles, have numerous works out. They've been around for like 100 to 200 years. And yet you have these newcomers over the last 10 years or so, constantly putting out materials. trying to incorporate things, trying to corrupt the material just to keep their image and their ego alive, to have their followers and their numbers. That's not occultism. No. That's a cult. That's the showmanship of Anton Szandor LaVey. That's the look at me factor. I'm a badass. That's ego. No, that's not occultism. That's not dedication to the gods or to the arts, to one's own evolution. You know, early this morning, I got on a chat that I am a admin on. And one of my fellow admins got blocked by a member, a mumbo. Okay? Now, a mumbo is a female voodoo practitioner, same as a Hugan. Okay? The male counterpart. And then you have what is known as the Bokor. Okay? Now, I've spoken on this before. And she basically called him young, that he was basically an idiot because he didn't know what he was doing. He wasn't initiated into the practices of voodoo. Well, because he's not charging $54,000 for initiation rights. Well, let me tell you something about this. Number one, if this Mambo was a true practitioner of voodoo, she would have known that somebody can start out as a Bokor and go into being a Hugan or a Mambo, and vice versa, by the way. Just saying. You have people from various different faiths wanting to learn the truths. They want to get dedicated to the arts and practices. Well, let me put it to you this way. Like I said, I'm on my 31st year. 31st year of my own personal practices. A year and a half of necromancy. But you know what's interesting? Right here, this journal. Early this morning, after I got back from another late night ritual, I finished up the Legionnaires to the Tower of Atropy. I'm talking 29 deities, 29 types of spirits. Drew their sigils, jotted down who they are, what they're about, how they appear. Yeah, the whole kit and caboodle. I did the same thing with the lords and ladies of the Tower of Atropy. I have been delving into regions of the world, putting in different sequences of words to try to find these deities. You see, I don't have somebody who is going to give me all the answers. And that's a good thing, because it shows your elders that you're self-motivated, that you're completely dedicated to the path, the work, the root workings of whatever path workings that you're doing. Doesn't it doesn't matter what tradition. If you're truly dedicated and wanting to learn, you're going to do the work yourself. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask for references. I can earnestly tell you that I've gone to S. Ben Cayenne and I've asked questions. I've gone to S. Connolly and I've asked questions. Yeah. I've even gone to my elders in my current path working and I've asked questions. There's nothing shameful about that. You see, it's one thing to ask the question, but it's something completely different to take the answer or perhaps the hint, like, say, being given a couple sources, like, say, the Jewish Haggadah, the Talmud, the Book of Tobit, for an example. Okay? And you can ask more questions on top of this. Well, what's it about? Where can I find this stuff? Well, instead of asking those questions, go into Google, type in Book of Tobit, type in the Talmud, Jewish Haggadah, just to name a couple. Munich manuscripts, the Dead Sea Scrolls. It takes 2 seconds underneath Google, and you're going to find numerous sources. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a lot of books that pop up, especially if you like books, like I do. Okay? I love books. I love to read. So when you type in one of these books, okay, you're going to have numerous different places. Wish, As a Green, Google, Amazon, eBay, you know, perhaps even, oh, I don't know. Let's go with Luciferian Apotheca, maybe ebooks, whatever. You're going to get these things, but it's up to you to go out and purchase them. It's up to you to dedicate yourself to the knowledge and the wisdom, the apotheosis of your work, to see where these spirits are leading you to. There is a difference between obsession and commitment. Do you think that the forefathers, for an example, were obsessed when they delved into sorcery? Think about the old mages and sages and how they would lock themselves away for a year or two to master, even a few years, just to master the occult sciences, the practices. I mean, you go into, say, for an example, the Clavicle of Solomon, or you go into the Black Pellet. You go into some of these old grimoires, and a lot of the stories are the same. Traveling. Even the Necronomicon by Simon. The Mad Arab literally left his homeworld to learn and to study from various different sages and mages. of the old world, the Middle Eastern worlds, going throughout Saudi, or what Mesopotamia, the Greek, the Roman, even the Egyptian. You have other instances where they find themselves as a reporter was a platoon of soldiers that get attacked. Everybody gets slaughtered, but yet this one person survives and was injured, and you get this other individual coming out of a pyramid and bringing them in, teaching them their ways, and then later all that doctrines, all that knowledge is being passed down to their sons, their daughters. In some cases, like the Red Book of Appin, the book was supposedly buried with Vlad the Impaler, but yet his sons removed the book from the grave and it got printed. The Black Raven is another. But then again, science has been proven, especially archaeology, to continuously bring up new stuff, which forces the Christians to reevaluate their ways. Think about that for a moment. Dedication to one's faith, only to realize, oh, Dead Sea Scrolls. This scroll here doesn't compute to our ways. We gotta rewrite our Bible. You see, an occultist knows that you have to be dedicated, committed, to walk a solitary path of self-evolution, self-mastery. More so, you have to take what you know and apply it to your life. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. But those who are, I applaud you. I do. Because it means you are tired of the bullshit, the drama of the world. And that says a lot about you. People are waking up to the knowledge, the truth, that what you're led to believe is a lie. Keep it up. Keep those horns up. Have a good one.